companies are laying off thousands of executives because they believe AI will replace them. Then they're shocked to discover that AI can't do what those executives did. And now they're desperately trying to hire them back. Your expertise isn't going anywhere, but do you know how to position it? Today's guest is Michele Cook, a technology sector veteran and sales and marketing leader who spent years as a self-employed consultant and fractional executive. She's seen firsthand how companies mismanage their talent in times of disruption. So she built a platform that does the opposite. She helps laid off tech executives transition into fractional C-level roles while matching them with growing companies that need fractional expertise but can't afford full-time executives. In this conversation, Michele reveals the exact LinkedIn prospecting strategy she uses to find executives and companies, how she built a two-sided marketplace without getting stuck in the middle, and how the systematic approach to business development that works in complex B2B markets. She also pulls back the curtain on long sales cycles, networking events with low show-up rates, and how she's automating her way to better ROI. If your pipeline is empty and you're hoping for referrals, this is your episode. My name is AJ Riedel, and this is Thriving Through, the podcast where each week I have real conversations with self-employed consultants about what it really takes to build a successful, profitable consulting practice. Let's dive right in. Welcome to this episode of the Thriving Through podcast. Today, my guest is Michele Cook. Michele, I'm delighted to have you on the podcast.
Delighted to be here.
You mentioned when we talked earlier that you're really focused on the intersection of tech layoffs and AI implementation. So paint a picture for our listeners of what you're seeing in the market right now. What's the problem you're observing?
Right and left, you see all these massive layoffs and to the tunes of tens of thousands. So just to kind of mention Amazon, I think they had 17,000, I believe it was 15 or 17,000. Meta had 30,000. Then they just laid off another 5,000 people and literally admitted that they were training their AI based on their employees' work to replace them. They did promise they wouldn't lay people off for another 7 months, but I mean, that's a major problem. If you're constantly in strife, worried about, am I going to have a job in 7 months? It's a lot of pressure for people. And many of these people are really, really high level executives, high level, high experience, very knowledgeable. And what's being found in the industry is that they lay these people off, and so many companies did this, believing the people would be replaced or replaceable. You cannot replace human intelligence with artificial intelligence, period. And so they're now calling these people back. But what you see is people are going to have a bitter taste in their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to feel, again, companies are worried about their stockholders and not their stakeholders. And so, having seen that in the market, I felt that there was a way uh, to hopefully position. My goal is to position my company to help executives thrive through this type of market change and disruption and get to the other side. So.
So, and your response to that need is that you're building a platform for those C-suite people, the executives who got pushed out of corporate America and that probably do have a bitter taste about going back to corporate, and they need to figure out how to become independent. So your platform, as I understand it, helps laid off executives transition into fractional consulting roles.
Absolutely.
So what's your vision there?
So basically, so I'd done some consulting in my past history, but it was just little me. And seeing this in the marketplace, et cetera, I realized that there needed to be something bigger than me out there to help these executives. Companies are going to lay off people because they'll follow the trend. They're going to turn around and realize they need these people back. People were going, they're going to have trouble going back to whether they know they have this job for the next 6 months or not. And it's a job. So how do we take these executives and build a career around being fractional, being able to work with multiple companies? So if they're working with 3 to 5 companies in a month, if one of them lets them go, they're going to be okay. And
Mhm.
so that's my vision to bring in CXOs, so CTOs, CIOs, chief revenue officers, chief marketing officers, and build out the platform. And also, I have another layer in there that I'd like to intern people or mentor people in the basic business consulting in startup and growth companies, because those companies will eventually grow. They'll need the fractional, but they don't need that full experience yet. So I want to layer that in so that we're helping people all the way across the board and the
Okay.
companies.
And you're even without that intern level, you're essentially building two different businesses because you've got your staffing recruitment platform and a fractional services agency. Because you what your vision is that you're not just going to teach them how to be a fractional, but you're going to get business for them.
Yes, yes.
So are you how are you deciding which one to build first? Are you doing them concurrently?
I'm doing them concurrently. The HR, the actual, he's a recruitment specialist to put it because he doesn't take over HR once somebody's on payroll. He's just really good at recruiting on my team. I worked with him before, and so he would be really, really valuable. I see not only for my group, let's go through the people who want to come on as fractionals and determine those good candidates that will contribute to the team and how we grow, without overgrowing, because that's not going to help anybody. You don't want to overscale and underdeliver, but also bring on the right candidates so that we're delivering the right services to companies. And I need to fill in my gaps. So I'm great at sales and marketing. That's been my history. I'm really, really good at that. Could I do a COO level? Yeah, I could to a point. Should I do it? Probably not. And definitely financial CFOs. I shouldn't be doing that piece because that's not my forte. I can do bookkeeping, I can balance the books, but that's not my forte. So I want to surround myself with really intelligent people to help build this platform out so that we're full service with these companies that need it as they grow.
So is your vision for the fractionals, the laid off executives, that they then don't really need to do any sort of business development on their own? They sign up for your platform and you get them their gigs. Is that the
That
vision?
That's a great question. If they bring it in, that's wonderful if they do. But a lot of these people, if they're CIOs or they're CTO, they don't know how to sell. So that's one of their huge hurdles is they don't really know how to sell. And so I bring the experience doing things like this podcast with you to get the word out that I'm out there, doing speaker gigs, etc. So getting myself in front of these groups of people's participating in. There's a couple different founders groups that I participate in. Um, that's what I do is I can get in front of a group of people and start talking anytime. And I can tell, once I know these people, my fractionals, I know their story, what they're good at, et cetera. I can coach them as to, well, this methodology could be trademarked. Did you know you can trademark that piece? You bring that to the table. Suddenly that's new. And it's a completely different layer that they're offering to companies. So to be able to both coach them on the one side, but portray them to companies as the experts that they are, that's what I'm good at. So telling the story.
Uh, what occurs to me is, well, I guess I have a blunt question. Do you charge for that? Essentially, you're coaching them into, because you have to figure out how to package them to be able to sell them to potential companies. And a lot of them don't know how to package themselves or promote
Sure.
themselves. So is that a for fee kind of thing, or is that part of your package?
So the package is, so there's basically an agency override of 10%. So whatever they do, if they go into a company and their starting rate is maybe 5,000 a month for a certain number of hours, then there's a 10% agency fee because and that's for not only getting that gig, making sure it goes smoothly, and so forth, but making sure that there are alternative gigs behind them in case that one fails or changes or the project finished, however that looks. So that's it. Just a simple 10% fee for the services to be part of the agency. So
Okay. I want to go back to the building two businesses. The business development playbook for recruiting your fractionals is completely different than selling to companies. So, how are you approaching each?
so the actual recruitment too, I think AJ is really important to know that that also is something that can be offered to companies. So if they're scaling, we can offer, Hutch, my recruiter, to them to do that recruitment. He's been able to, reduce costs quite a bit in recruitment. He's shown that proven track record with his methodology. So that's also available to companies to take advantage of. But recruiting for the fractionals, it's, again, I think in this market, one of the best places you can be is on LinkedIn, right? It's a business to business. You see, and sadly, you see the stories right and left about. I've been looking for work for 2.5 years. I'm still looking for, and you've got an executive that's got these wonderful experiences and valuable education, struggling because they don't know how to either they're looking for that job, the job at corporate America, or they just don't know how to package themselves. And so that's really a gold mine for getting in front of a lot of people utilizing that service. And then in addition, a lot of people tend to listen to podcasts such as this. They tend to listen to, speaking engagement events. And so that's another great way to get the word out there, get those meetings, et cetera. And then I'm building out a networking platform where other companies that may do similar things to what I do, but not exactly. So
Mhm.
I'm building those affiliate programs so that we can help each other. If I come across something that suits their group, I can refer them to that company and vice versa. So that's a huge part of it.
Okay. Yeah. So, um, on LinkedIn, so you find your leads, the people that you want, the laid off workers. Do you DM them? I mean, how do you they're fairly easy to find if you kind of lurk.
Yes.
But I mean, I'm thinking of like Sales Navigator. You can't really filter for a laid off executive in Sales Navigator. So how do you find those people on LinkedIn?
So this is where Hutch's methodology comes into play. So where he's got, he does use AI tools to help kind of gather a lot of the information, et cetera. But it's getting in front, and yes, it would be, it's DMing. If you've got somebody that says, "Hey, I've open to work, been looking," and a lot of times you'll have people will repost that. So the person who reposts it might be in my network, and the person who's looking for the work is not. Then I might reach out to them directly and say, "Hey, I was looking at your profile. Have you considered this type of thing? Would you be interested in a consultation with Hutch, my recruiter, or if Hutch reaches out, et cetera?" And then we just set it up from there. So we, have a conversation, see if it's a fit. If it's a go, then that's where we go.
Okay. And then if there's a fit for them, how do you actually connect them to the opportunities? Is that through is it Hatch or Hatch?
So I have my website where I'm going to post about them. They're going to be there to the opportunities, but then I'm going to also be, I've got a CRM that I use, different ways. So if I'm in front of people, the biggest thing is you want to do is create, and this is kind of where I know enough to be dangerous as a COO. So I want things to be foundational. So they're very simple. So if I've got an intake sheet on my marketing people, here's my intake sheet. Here's all the questions that I ask based on my marketing methodology that I bring to a company. On the other side, I want to create that similar intake sheet for, my CXOs so that when they're sitting down in front of a company and maybe we're both doing a Zoom call, we're doing an intake, we're finding out, uncovering what's working, what's not working, where are they seeing huge holes and gaps, where we can we fill in. That should be a simple formula that is a cookie cutter formula that can be used from client to client to client. Not every client's going to be the same, but the intake portion should be the same, where you're evaluating what you're bringing to the table, what they have going on, what they're doing now, and what's not working. So,
Got it. So now I'm going to flip to the demand side. You mentioned companies have laid off all these execs and now they're panicked about AI, but they also have budget constraints because they just laid off thousands of people for budget reasons. How are you positioning fractional services as a solution when these companies are in cost-cutting mode versus hiring mode?
well, if you're bringing somebody on with the experience that you would have to pay, say you have to pay full service for somebody, and it's a couple hundred, 250 a year, right? 250,000 a year. But if you do it fractionally and it ends up being, more like 120, you've just saved a lot of money. So you can go back to your stockholders and say, I've saved a lot of money, but you can also go to your stakeholders and say, we're still delivering these things to you. This is still, so it becomes a huge savings to the companies based on the project, based on their needs, what needs to be done, what type of C-level, C-suite services that we're delivering to them. And that should just in and of itself, being a fractional individual, is going to help the company save a lot of money and still get the experience they need to get the work done efficiently. On the other side, the C-suite level person needs to be um, able to manage. If they're working with three different companies, they've got to be able to manage that. And so that's got to be a characteristic of them. If they get lost in the first, email batch, there's going to be a major issue. So we need to make sure that we've got foundational, like I said, the CRM that I've got, a lot of information. Make sure you're documenting it, all your conversations. Make sure you're on top of it. Like your calendar is your friend. So that we're having these conversations. And really the other thing is making sure that you're in contact with these companies that you're providing services for on a weekly basis, at minimum bi-monthly, but it really should be weekly, making sure that you're still meeting your objectives as you go along.
Right.
So
Um, how do you, so we talked a couple minutes ago about how you find your potential fractionals, so your the labor pool.
yes.
How do you find companies that might be good candidates? Because they're probably not going to signal on LinkedIn that, that they laid off people and now they're lost. How do you find the companies that need your fractional help?
The funny thing is actually the minute I put my new company in fractional on my LinkedIn, I started getting companies reaching out to me. So you do get
Wow.
some interest. It does build that interest. That's a buzzword right now. So just changing your profile, updating that, and making sure you're really elevating it so it is, searchable by artificial intelligence, so that, when somebody searches for you, you're pulling up. It really does. The other thing is getting in front of. I met with a group. They're the Founders School, SKOOL, and Engine, and they help founders kind of get their clarity around what they're doing, help them grow. So if they grow to a certain level, they're going to help them go to the next level. I'm part of that whole group. So I'm in front of these people. That's part of one of the different groups that I can network in and talk about my services. This is what we're doing. And the other thing that you can do is you set up these meetings. You have a one-to-many conversation with, you've got people signing up. You want to know more about fractional CFO services. Let's go ahead and have that. We'll do a presentation to all the founders who are part of the TFSE group, and everybody who signs up is then they've raised their hand. So you can
Mhm.
create these events that are virtual or in person that's going to have people coming to and participating, and spending their time, and then you determine what their needs are from that, set up a one-to-one after you do the presentation as to what you're doing. So that's a great way to get in front of people. People's time is really
Okay.
valuable. So that's just
Hmm.
a huge way to do it.
So if I understand, so you go to events where these potential companies are, like the founders who as they scale up are going to need these executives, and then you then kind of the top of the funnel, to use market speak, is to get them to come to an event specifically about using fractionals, and then if they're interested, then you go into a one-on-one, essentially discovery call with them.
Correct. And so like the Founders School Engine it's a platform for founders to kind of meet and mingle and talk about some of their concerns, and then the people that run it help will jump in and say, "Hey, let's get on a call or let's talk about this." So it's basically a group that you can participate in. There's a lot of CEO groups. There's a lot of groups like that where they're networking together, whether it's womanpreneur, et cetera. There's so many different groups that you can be in front of, and use those as a venue where you're not you're not selling your services on their platform, but you're offering a networking event, something that might be helpful. So there's something that you're offering. And there always should be some form of giveaway, right? So for your time,
Mhm.
I'm going to give you this. This is what we'll do. But even if it's a half hour to a 45-minute networking event, that you're getting people signed up for, that's a huge part of getting in front of people, saying what we do, how we do it, how will this help? And the key is always what's in it for them. How will this help you? How is this going to make your life easier? Because a lot of people that have taken on AI, their upper level management are pulling their hair out because they've got a larger load. Because yeah, AI can generate millions of lines of code, but suddenly you've got a smaller team of software engineers that need to read that code and verify that it's good. And so it really alleviates the stress all the way across the board. So.
So I'm curious because it sounds like you spend a fair amount of time at these networking events where you're kind of fishing,
Mhm.
you know, and then you move them, you get them to raise their hand and say, "Yes, I'm coming to your networking event." What's the ROI for the time spent both on their networking event to get people to your networking event, and then kind of averages, what do you get to your networking events? Because, the big challenge that for self-employed consultants is how do you, getting people to a webinar that the conversion rate, I mean, the response rate's pretty low. It can be like pulling teeth to get people to come to a networking event or a webinar. And then you may get X number registered and only 30% show. So how do you manage all of that stuff?
Yeah, and that's a great point. And that is one of the issues that you've got is that you've got, I mean, even if you get 100 people signing up, you maybe get 20 people to show up, right? So,
Hmm.
things happen. So that is one of the issues that I'm trying to refine and define that. The other question is can we do this that I'm kind of looking at and in talks with a couple people? Can we do this where it's more automated as a webinar?
Hmm.
So it reduces actual time spent to build this. It's automated. Then you go, boy, I really want to hit that. And I'd like to hit that button and learn more about it at this point. Then you get the one-on-one. So that's where I'm leaning towards
Hmm.
as this is being built because I think that that's really going to make a huge difference with
Right.
um,
It,
changing that ROI issue. Because
right.
even when you get in front of the one-on-ones, often it'll take you 2, 3 weeks for them to even pull the trigger because they're kind of noodling, they're working on their budget, they're figuring this out. They got to talk to Joe over here in production or whatever it is that they've got to do. And then it's just getting them to pull the trigger. So,
Right. So you're looking at very time intensive and long sales cycles, both on
yeah,
the recruiting fractionals and on the recruiting of companies. And you're looking at ways to shorten that cycle.
absolutely. Yes. That's one of
Yeah.
my challenges. And that's one of the things that I'm setting a goal for myself that, I'm really great with following up with people, but if I'm following up with 20 people or 30 people or 40 people at one time, it, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do I reduce that? And that's one of my challenges that I've got to do is make sure that I'm working on that and reducing that um, time to trigger, basically.
Right. Right. Time to trigger a good term. Where are you with this platform? Is it still in development, sort of pre-commerce phase, or are you making money from this?
It's still in development at this point. I really more recently relaunched it, etc. So it's still in development. But I actually have conversations as of today and tomorrow that should be some triggers that are moving forward. So that I've been talking to these people for a couple weeks. So that's really the process is just reducing that time that I'm working on. And then the other piece is getting those other individuals, those other experts on my team where I can, let them go and do what they need to do so I can start selling them. And so I'm still building that piece out. And there's a huge, huge opportunity for people to come in. I mean, I keep saying I'll be happy when I have one too many companies that wants me to be CMO for them or wants me to do this and I have to hire another CMO. Gee darn, that's terrible. I could do that. So
Right.
I'd rather have that than so that's exactly the goal that I'm looking for everybody. I want it to be a win-win all the way across the board. With companies that come on board, one of the things I request is there's got to be a 30-day notice. So at least get that. So it can't be just a collapse of, well, it's May 27th and we're not going to have you next month. So different things that you put into place to make sure that you're supporting your team members as well as the companies themselves. That means that we're not dropping them in 2 days notice. So that is a
Hmm.
that is a two-way benefit. And just making sure that we're putting that into our contracts and representing the companies as well as we can.
So, and amidst of all this platform building and doing sales for that, you are also doing fractional work yourself.
I am
Sounds
right now.
like.
I am right now. Yes, as I build it. So
Is
yes,
that to keep the pay the bills?
it is. It is right now. That's to pay the bills as I build up the agency and get that going. So, absolutely. And hey, I'll be fine. I'm going to be really, really happy when I can say I'm going to go to Europe for a couple weeks. You guys run this. You know how to call me. It's good. So, I'll take a couple Zoom calls while I'm there, and we'll deal what we're dealing with. I love travel, so that's what I always think of. That's my goal is to get it
Right.
to the point where it's that fine running engine
Hmm.
that it can go with or without me, because eventually I'd like to have an exit plan for myself on this, but have it continue to go after I'm gone.
Right. So you want to create, turn it into a well-oiled machine that doesn't need you to be in the office every day.
Exactly. Exactly.
Where do you see this business in 3 to 5 years?
Um, my goal is to make it, a multi-million dollar business that is literally helping, layering in from growth companies, bringing them into the mid-level stage to where we're really, really helping kind of across the board these companies, navigate and we'd be on the forefront of where AI is going, right? Because we have to keep on top of that.
Hmm.
So that's huge. As I said, AI shouldn't ever replace the human element or human intelligence, HI, right? As somebody once said. But we've got to keep on top of that because anytime there's a market disruption, you just have to keep aware of what's going on, keep apprised of it, and figure out how to move quickly, pivot if you need to.
Hmm.
And so that's really what this company is it's going to need to do, but it's built for that because of the whole platform. It's literally built for that pivot, which I'm so excited about.
I have a number of, I work with self-employed consultants and fractionals. My last revenue accelerator cohort, two of them were fractionals. And so if there are fraction people who have already decided they want to be fractionals who are listening to this, how do I mean, do you want to hear from those people?
I would love to. I would love to have a conversation, love to schedule a time so that we can, kind of have them meet with Hutch and myself and find out more about what they're doing, what's working, what's not working, and how we might be a fit. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So, and how would they get hold of you?
So all of my information is on my website. So and so they can actually set up a Calendly right there. It's available on my website to schedule a time. Just let me know what it's for. We'll set up a Zoom and go from there.
Okay. Very cool. Well, I actually have a couple people that I'm going to send your way
Awesome.
that might be interested in hearing more. Um, I guess that's good. Uh, Is there anything that I haven't asked that I should have asked?
No, you have it all so well put together, AJ. So that's been wonderful. I think the main thing is again just being able to help people navigate this new disruption in the marketplace, um, help people pivot as employees, but also help the companies pivot so they can keep the employees they have still. They're using AI in a proper way and not expecting it to change the world. I mean, it
Right.
is changing the world, but you have to have elements in place. So
Well, and maybe they're expecting, it sounds like a lot of them are expecting it to replace executives. And there's a lot of human intelligence stuff that goes in at the executive level that, and that's probably why the what you identified is that they're now in a frenzy because they laid off all these executives and now they're deep into AI and it's not giving them the results they want. And they're a little bit panicked because they they didn't they didn't fi- look out for the consequences.
absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I keep going back to LinkedIn, but you can see it kind of all over different social media. But LinkedIn being more business to business platform, you see it right and left. Hey, we're now open to hiring software coders, and it's the same company that had just announced, we laid off 3,000 people, mid-level company or whatever it is. So, um, as I mentioned, that's a huge part of it where employees are going to be distrustful of corporate America. And it is what happened when companies moved from stakeholder, reporting to their stakeholders to reporting to their stockholders instead. And the fact is that it's also, I won't name the company, but I have a internet provider that if I ever have to call them, drives me nuts. I'll be 45 minutes into the call saying, give me a rep, give me still saying the same thing. AI does not replace the human touch. And so stakeholders are also your clients.
Yes,
So you're going to lose clients because of this. You're going to lose business and be aware. And so we're here to help prevent that so that you're still keeping your company viable, you know, you're with your budget, but you're also still delivering that customer service, that human element all the way across the board. And that's where, your chief revenue officers or your chief marketing officers, they know what that means, what that looks like, and what it's going to entail. If you've got an AI bot answering things and spinning something into a tailspin because it keeps saying, well, I'll send you a link and do it online. It, so it drives me crazy. And that's just me. And I'm from technology sector. So imagine people who don't have a technology background,
yeah,
and they're stuck in this loop and they're going crazy. So I'm really here to help companies not do that. And they need to report better to their stakeholders, their employees and their clients. So
makes sense.
yeah,
I have one last question.
okay.
As you know, the podcast title is Thriving Through. So here's my question. Are you thriving?
I am, it's a work in progress, AJ, because it is newer, but I'm super ecstatic about what I'm doing. The feedback that I've gotten from various different meets, people that I've met, they're excited about what I'm doing. They see the vision. The fact that I've got so much clarity around what I want to do. It's not something back here. It's very, very clear as to what I'm looking to do for companies. I've just gotten a wonderful amount of feedback. I'm super excited about this. And I'm excited and developing something that I really truly feel is going to help people all the way across the board. So yes, in that manner, I am absolutely thriving. Absolutely.
Wonderful. And with that, this podcast episode is a wrap. Michele, thank you for coming on the podcast and talking about your vision and how you're bringing your vision to life. And for those of you listening or watching, until next time, keep thriving through. There are a couple things that stuck with me from Michele's interview. One, the minute you clearly name what you do, inbound interest increases. Michele saw immediate inbound interest when she updated her LinkedIn headline to explicitly say fractional executive services. For consultants with unclear positioning who are afraid to put a flag in the ground in their headline about what they do, this is the signal that clarity attracts the right buyers. The second key takeaway, weekly contact cadence with prospects and clients is not extra, it's foundational. The difference between success and failure is staying connected weekly, not monthly, not bi monthly, not quarterly. Systems and discipline matter more than sporadic hustle. If you're a self employed consultant, 3 to 5 years into your practice, here's something you need to know. You're at a critical inflection point right now. Most consultants in your situation don't realize it, but 12 to 15% of the consultants at your stage exit consulting every single year. The ones that break through and last aren't smarter or harder working than you. They're just clear on positioning, they build a repeatable pipeline, and they nail their conversion. I created a 5-day email breakdown that shows you exactly what's holding you back and what needs to change. So you don't become a statistic. And so you're still in business at that critical 5-year point. It's called The Real Reason You're Stuck at 100K When You Should Be at 150K. And it's designed specifically for consultants who know that they should be further along. Go to ajriedel.com/inflection point and opt in. You'll get the breakdown delivered over 5 days. And by the end, you'll know exactly what your next move should be. The link is in the show notes. Michele, thank you for sharing how you're building this fractional executive platform and helping companies navigate market disruption without losing the human element. If you want to connect with Michele, check the show notes for her website and LinkedIn. And last, if this helped you think differently about your consulting business, leave a review. It'll take less than a minute and it'll help other independent consultants find the show. Just tap the link in the show notes and it'll take just 30 seconds to leave a review on Apple Podcast. Until next time, keep thriving through.